psychologist for humane asylum seeker treatment, and my daughter insisted on being part of this, so she's... Hi Susanna. Orwell told us that political language has been designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable and give an appearance of solidarity to pure wind. As a nation, we have endured decades of political language. However, now we're in the post-political language. Our leaders no longer even communicate with us anymore. They no longer communicate with each other. They no longer face the scrutiny of press. We got used to the two sides of politics flinging insults at each other like so many monkeys flinging their feces. But now, the new language is the language of silence. Silence for operational reasons. But as psychologists, we don't hear silence. We hear anguish on a daily basis. As our political leaders make decisions and hide behind their silence, we hear the pain created by their decisions. Every day around the country, we bear witness to these stories. And in so witnessing, there is a type of solidarity forged through our common humanity. The health professionals, the police officers, the lawyers, the journalists, we bear witness. We bear witness to the stories of those who are too easily forgotten. Stories that don't make good television, and stories that can't be summed up in 2 minutes. Yeah. We bear witness to the owners of these stories in the hope of helping them reclaim both their dignity and their lives. Asylum seekers are one of the most vulnerable, disenfranchised and distressed groups in the world today. They are driven by fear of death in their home countries. They become citizens without a state in their journey to our country, until they finally arrive and they're met with indefinite detention and uncertainty. Nearly all asylum seekers have witnessed atrocities prior to fleeing, and many of them were exposed to even more horror on their way. It's estimated that 50%, that's half, experience post-traumatic stress disorder as they arrive. But guess what? After 2 years in detention, it's 86%. By the way, that research was done back in 2004 when we only kept people in asylum in detention for 2 years. Now with indefinite detention, we have no idea how much damage we are doing to people in the name of these policies. Psychiatrist Louise Newman described Australia's detention facilities as factories for mental illness. The conditions in these facilities and the events unfolding within them are capable of creating trauma even within the perfectly healthy staff who work within those facilities. We can only imagine the effects they're having on the refugees. But trauma's not the whole story. Indefinite detention and deliberate separation of families is damaging children. A 2004 study found that prior to arrival, most of the refugee children were psychologically healthy. 2 years later, after detention, 100% of those children met criteria for a psychiatric diagnosis. 80% met criteria for 2 or more psychiatric diagnoses. We're talking about older children starting to bedwet again. We are talking about children waking up in the middle of the night screaming about what they have witnessed in detention. More than half of the children reported they would be better off if they were dead. A quarter of those children had attempted to kill themselves. The most terrifying part of the story is we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The interviews smuggled out of detention, the whistleblower accounts, give us the tiniest glimpses into what's unfolding on our watch. Asylum seekers need a voice. They need to be heard, and they need for their stories to be witnessed. The language of silence might be politically expedient, but it is no longer acceptable. Neither political party approaches this issue with clean hands, and certainly neither can claim the moral high ground. It's for this reason we declare no confidence in both of them.
This is the human side you'll never hear from the likes of Morrison or Abbott, and they should be ashamed of it, treating them like political footballs. Shame! We now have Jake Shermer, who's the convener of Queensland Young